Okay, grade 10s. I'm going to start with 5.1 today, and we are going to look at multiplying polynomials. This is the first time I've done this without a class, so bear with me. If and when you come on here, you can ask questions using the comments, and we'll go from there. So first things first, we're going to look at something simple. What we know so far is that if I have a value such as 5 on the outside of the brackets and I need to multiply it by x plus 2, I take that value and I distribute it through, and I go 5 times x plus 5 times 2, which is 10. Okay, so I have now turned this product into a binomial of 5x plus 10. Okay, now, see, we're going to look at the next step would be to multiply a binomial by a binomial. Now, using the same theory that I have here, I can take x, times it by x plus 3, and then I can take 2 and times it also by x plus 3. All right, now this isn't the fastest way to do it. The fastest way to do this is using FOIL, but I'll get to that in a second. The reason I show you this is because this is the method that we may want to use when we're taking a binomial times a trinomial, for instance. All right, so I go x squared plus 3x, and then 2x plus 6 equals x squared. Now I collect my like terms. I add 3x and 2x together. I get 5x, add 6. Okay, so this is one method in which we could multiply a binomial by a binomial. All right, and like I said, I would use FOIL, which I'll come back to in a second here. But it is a method that works well if I have a binomial times a trinomial, which we'll do next. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to show you how to FOIL that first. Just as a refresher for you, I think. So FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, and last. Okay? So the first in each bracket I multiply. So x times x is x squared. I then multiply the outside in each bracket. So this and this constitutes the outside. So that's plus 3x. Then I'm going to multiply the two inside values, which is 2 times x, which is going to give me 2x. And then finally, I'm going to multiply the last in each bracket, which is 2 times 3, which is 6. Again, I need to add my like terms together. So I have x squared plus 5x, add 6. Okay? So this is the method that I use most often because I think it's the fastest method that we can actually do it. So if I compare it, just quickly compare it to the other method. All right? This one is the distributive. It might be hard to see on the board there, but I took x and I multiplied it by x plus 3. Then I took 2 and times by x plus 3, and I came up with the same solution as I did here. All right. So when it comes to a binomial by a binomial, to me the best way to do it is the FOIL method. Now a binomial is 2 terms, and they're separated by a plus or a minus sign. So term 1, term 2, plus sign. That's a binomial. Term 1, term 2, plus sign. That's also a binomial. Okay? Now, What happens if I want to multiply a binomial multiplied by a trinomial? So a trinomial is 3 terms separated by 2 plus or negative sign, pluses or minus signs. Okay, so the first method to do this would be to multiply 2a through the second set of brackets and then times 4 through the second set of brackets. So I would go 2a and then it's a squared as well. So I take the first 2 terms out of the brackets and I set them in front of the second set of brackets. So now I go 2a times a squared, which we just learned in the last section would be 2a cubed. I have 2a times 5a, which is...
Ms. Calvert, please bring down the homework package for Sierra Lane, please. Ms. Calvert, please bring down Sierra Lane's homework package. Thank you.
So I have 2a times 5a, which is 10a squared. And then I have 2a times 7, which gives me 14a. And then I multiply the 4 through the brackets. So 4 times a squared is 4a squared. 4 times 5a is 20a. And 4 times 7 is 28. And again, the next thing I do is I collect the like terms. So I've got a squared and a squared. Okay. I've got a and a. And then I'm left with the rest of it. So I have 2a cubed. I write that back out. We always want to write these in descending order based on their exponents. So now I have 10a squared and 4a squared, which is 14a squared. And then I have 14a and 20a, which works out to 34a. And then I add 28 at the end. So this is called the distributive property, all right, in which I am going to distribute through the brackets, take my first value, 2a, multiply it through the brackets, then multiply 4 through it, and collect the like terms. So again, not my choice of method, but if you were consistent with the first time I did it, and you did it again, and you're comfortable with it, then that's fine as well. To me, the best way to set up this question is like you would do long division of any other for it. So I'm going to go a squared plus 5a, add 7, and then I'm going to multiply it by 2a plus 4. Now notice I stacked them. Now, if you were to multiply, let's say I took 321 and I times it by 14. You would start by working from right to left. So I'd go 1 times 4 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12. And then I would put an X there, and I'd go 1 times 1 is 1, 2, and 3. Add all of this together, and I'd end up with 4,494. Okay? I'm going to use the same idea on the polynomials in which I'm multiplying a trinomial by a binomial. The difference being I'm going to work from left to right. So I'm going to start with the 2a and multiply it by the a squared. So 2a by a squared is a cubed. 2a by 5a is 10a squared. And 2a times 7 is 14a. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the 4. 4 times a squared. Well, I'm going to line it directly underneath my a squared value, 4a squared, plus 4 times 5a, which is 20a, plus 28, and then I just draw a line and add everything up. A cubed plus 14a squared plus 34a, add 28. All right. So again, 2 different methods in which you can do this, and I'm okay with whichever one you find the easiest. All right. So all of lesson 5.1 is just having you work on your multiplication of polynomial functions. Now, we aren't going to do any of the algebra style work, at least until you get back. So we'll do our best that we can by just multiplying through and doing the distributive property and or FOIL in this case. So looking at the assignment on page 86 and 87, you basically could skip the algebra tiles for now. In number 2, I want you to actually multiply them out manually. So for example, I have x plus 3 times x plus 4. And again, I'm not fussy about how you do it. I want to FOIL it, so I'm multiplying my first. So x times x, x squared. Then I'm going to take x times 4, 4x. 3 times x, that's my inside, 3x. And my last is 3 times 4, which is 12. So I go x squared, add those two together, add 12. And what you'll find is that I am ending up with the factors of 12 that add to give me 7. Well, 4 and 3 are factors of 12. They add to give you 7. So if I was to work it backwards. So on Monday, I'm going to work back 5.2 with you, which is factoring, which is one of the most important skills that you can have in grade 11 and 12, because we do a pile of it. So I'm just going to randomly pick a couple questions out of the book. So I'm going to start with 2e, because I think it's important we understand what this is. So 2e is x minus 4 squared. Okay? So when I see that squared value, if I write 4 squared, let's say, that's exactly the same as saying 4 times 4. I multiply that number by itself. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take x minus 4 and I'm going to times it by x minus 4. And again, I'm going to work on my FOIL. First, x times x, x squared. So that's my f. My outside, x times negative 4, negative 4x. That's my O. Then I'm going to multiply my inside, minus 4x. That's my I. So erase this. Throw it away. And then finally my last, which is negative 4 times negative 4, which is 16. Simplify it, x squared minus 8x, add 16. This is what we would call a perfect squared trinomial. Because if you take the square root of this value here, 16, which is 4, and times it by 2, you'll end up with your middle number. That's what we call a perfect square trinomial. Okay. I'm going to pick another one to look at. Let's look at, I'm going to look at 3f. So 3f is 5e plus 5 times 6e minus 1. Again, I'm going to use FOIL. So my first, 5e times 6e. Well, 5 times 6 is 30. And e times e is e squared. Now my outside, 5e times negative 1. That's negative 5e. My inside, 5 times 6e, 30e. And then my last is 5 times negative 1, which is minus 5. So I have 30e squared plus 25e minus 5. Okay, and again, you're always going to subtract them, whatever it is, but they will be the same variable, so I can combine them because they are like terms. Okay. And then one last one I'll do for today. 7D. So this one's got a bit of work to it. So I have 5n plus 4 all squared. Subtract 2n plus 7 times 8n plus 4 times 5n plus 4. And I'm just going to leave this as is for a second. All right. So 5n plus 4. I'm going to FOIL it. So 5n times 5n, 25n squared. 5n times 4 plus 20n. 4 times 5n, that's my inside, 20n. And then finally 4 times 4, which is 16. Now, because of that negative in front, if I have a negative in front of this or another numerical value, coefficient, I'm going to then work with a bigger set of brackets here. So I'm going to FOIL this first. I'm going to simplify it, and then once simplified, then I'm going to distribute my negative through the brackets. The negatives always seem to cause problems because we forget to transfer them through all of the values in the brackets. Lots of times we just transfer it through the first one, but we need to go through. So 2n by 8n is 16n squared. 2n times negative 6 is negative 12n. 7 times 8n is 56n. And 7 on the outside here. So I have 25n squared. 20n and 20n make 40n. Add 16. I'm still going to leave this as is for a second until I'm done simplifying. So I've got 16n squared minus 12, add 56 is going to give me plus 44n, subtract 42, like that. So at this point right now, I'm going to distribute the negative 1 through the brackets. All right? So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking everything inside the brackets and I'm changing their signs. So right now, so this reads kind of like this. That's like saying plus a negative 1. All right? Even though it isn't there. So I've got that. So I'm going to multiply it through the brackets, and then I'm going to change the signs. So I've got 25n squared plus 40n, add 16. Now here we go. This positive 16 becomes a negative 16n squared. Plus 44n becomes negative 44n, and negative 42 becomes plus 42. I'm basically taking negative 1 and I'm timesing it by each of the 3 in the brackets. Okay, and this is where the problems arise, is that distribution of a negative value and forgetting that it works for all 3 in the brackets. Okay, now I'm going to collect all my like terms. I have 25n squared and I have subtract 16n squared. That is 9n squared. Then I have 40n and negative 44n. That's minus 4n. And then I have 16 and 42, which make 58. There's a fair bit of work there, but all I really did was FOIL twice. Right, I FOILed this out first, then I FOILed this second, and then the third thing I had to do was distribute through the brackets, and then finally I simplify at that point. Okay? All right. Those of you that are on live, If you have any questions, just type them into the comment box. If you want to ask, I've pretty much covered all that I want to cover today. Tomorrow tomorrow being Friday, March 20th, I'm going to be on with you at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So that will be where I answer any questions from today's assignment on 5.1. Okay? If you can add a thumbs up to the live feed, then I know at least you're getting what you are from this presentation. Okay? And that's basically it for today. All right. Hope you're doing okay. We'll talk to you tomorrow.